I hope you all are safe. This is just hope because we are at a high risk during this peak of the pandemic. So please make sure your safety first. That may help you to you achieve your objectives without disturbance. So having that thought, I'm willing to enter into this today's section, the compliance function. The last class, of course, the special class, in the Tuesday's class, we have started a new topic called compliance functions, and under which we have studied about what is compliance risk and what is compliance function, like risk management functions. We have checked what is compliance function and role of the compliance function, and then formal status of the compliance function and compliance culture, responsibilities of various parties and compliance test, as well as finally we compare the compliance function versus internal audit function. Of course, that day the attendance were poor, but I understand your difficulties also, because after work or any other things, it is difficult to attend a class by 7:30, 8:30. I understand the situation. So I'm giving an opportunity to you all. If you all wanted to ask any question in this topic before moving to the next topic, today's discussion, if you all wanted to ask anything from this topic, feel free to ask from me. I'm ready to answer. Even if you don't understand any particular topic, or any even, for example, a role of compliance function or compliance test or anything. If you don't understand, you can ask the questions. I hope you'll have already gone through my slides related to the compliance function 1. That means the first class. Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, you all can send it through the inbox or unmute the microphone and ask the you can ask the questions. Because why I'm giving the chances, because if you don't understand any of this topic, then it is little bit difficult, not difficult, but of course it's better to have this idea, understanding about these topics before going to the next one. Okay, since there is no questions, I'm moving to the today's topic. So the last class, at the latter part of the class, the last Tuesday's class, we have started anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. So what I thought is, I'm thinking that okay, we will start again this, because I have started to discuss something about this KYC and CFTAML and all. Then I stopped the class. So to get a full benefit, I'm thinking to, because since this is sort of separate topic, better to start from this topic and give some idea and continue the class. So having that idea, so I'm starting with what is anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. If you all have worked in the bank or finance institutions, you may heard about this word, or you may familiar with this word, and even the operational aspects of these things. The first thing is, what is money laundering? First, we should know what is money laundering. The money laundering is the process of making large amount of money generated by a criminal activity such as drug trafficking, terrorist funding, or appear to have come from a legitimate sources. The money from criminal activity is considered dirty, and the process of launders it to make it look clean. That is, the money laundering itself is a crime. So this is the meaning of money laundering. So in the world, even in Sri Lanka or in the rest of the any part of the world, there may be criminal activities. We need not to say there will be a criminal activities, definitely, even in the US or UK, any countries. So the people who earn money from the criminal activity, it may be drug trafficking or terrorist financing or in some other way, when they earn the money, they can't just make that money into the banking system. They can't bring that into the banking system, because when the new customer come and deposit a large amount of money, the bank may ask the source of fund. What is the source? So in that case, it is difficult to make it as a make it that money into the system, or bring it that money into the system. It is something different. So what they are doing is, these people are we call as a launder. They what they are doing is, they just launder the dirty money into the clean money. So there are several strategies we have discussed in the last class. So this process is called money laundering process. This is, I have even the last class. Those who attend the last class, you may have already seen this slide. Here I have explained very well. This when money getting from the dirty money, or when they are getting from the legal activity, what they will do is, they will try to deposit in the banking system. So what they can't deposit at a once, because when you are opening a saving account or any sort of accounts, so there is a KYC for there's a form where you have to declare the information, your personal information. For example, identity card number, residential address, and what is your monthly income, what is your monthly deposit amounts and all. Then when you are depositing large amount, then the bank will have a suspicious. Okay, a teacher who is depositing always 50,000 a monthly and withdraw that money before 25th of the next month. So they know the pattern. Okay, this man is depositing 50,000, or salary is getting credited to this account 50,000, and they are withdrawing, and gradually it will come to the zero at the end of the month. Then suddenly that person go and deposit 10 million rupees or 25 million rupees. Then bank will question, okay, what is the source of money? So since that process is there, these people can't just deposit the money in the bank. So what they will do is, they may have several strategies to deposit. They follow several strategies to deposit. One of the strategy what they will do is, they will deposit. They may have the 50-100 accounts in the different banks, and they may deposit the small amounts in each account, and that is the first process. They will deposit the small amounts to each in the 100 accounts or 50 accounts. Then what they will do is, through the online transaction or through any other means, what they will do is, they will transfer that all the money into pool that into one account. Okay, so in the one account, then it may be out of the country, or it may be within the country. There may be several strategies. They will just make it into one account, and after that, what they will do is, they will use that money to purchase valuable, precious metals, or any real estate or vehicles and all the high value items. Then after that, it will become to the or it will successfully bring to the system. Then after that, of course, they will sell, and they will say that as a source, okay, selling sold their property or vehicle or something. So this is one of the typical money laundering system. So but the banks and regulators, particularly the regulators, they are trying to stop this money laundering system. Why? Why the bank should stop the money laundering system? Okay, we say that, okay, there's a money laundering system and all. These people are launder the money and all. Okay, why a bank should stop the money laundering system? Why? Can someone answer why the bank should stop the money, or why the regulator trying to stop the money laundering system? You can unmute the microphone and answer. Don't have the hesitation and all. You can answer. Or you
can be used for illegal proceeds such as terrorism activities, purchase of weapons, like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Exactly. Actually, the regulators or the legitimate government wanted to stop these criminal activities and terrorism. So then this money laundering system will help them to carry out their criminal activities and terrorism and all. So they wanted to stop those things or reduce that things. So what they are doing is they are just trying to stop some. They are their main way of fund transfer. So that is why these money laundering are prohibited in the countries, and the regulators and banks and the government try to stop this money laundering system. Okay. So the terrorism financing, of course, everybody know. Most of the people knows about it. The terrorism financing incorporates the distinct activities of fundraising and storing and concealing funds, using fund to sustain terrorist organization and infrastructure, and transfer funds to support or carry out specific terrorist attacks. So this is the any terrorist organization. They raise the funds that is coming under the terrorist financing. So the regulators and the government is trying to control this terrorist financing as well. So that having that idea only, there are two concepts developed here: the anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. Okay, now we have seen what is money laundering and what is terrorism financing, and now we are coming to the main concept: what is anti-money laundering and what is countering financing of terrorism. The anti-money laundering refers to a set of laws or regulations and procedures tended to prevent criminals from claim the illegal or illegally obtained fund as a legitimate income, or convert the illegally obtained fund as a legitimate income. Through the anti-money laundering laws covers a relatively limited range of transactions and criminal behavior. Their implications are far-reaching. So the implication from these money laundering systems and all, it's a harmful to the economy as well as the country. So they are just regulators are working to the anti-money laundering system. And countering financing of terrorism is again same. It is involved investigating, analyzing, detecting, and preventing source of funding for activities intended to achieve political, religious, or ideological goal through the violence and threat the violence against the civilians. So that is the these two concept about the anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. And I think this is I have already explained at the last class. And if you are working the banks and finance companies, you may heard about this word again, the know your customer. That is what I explained to you, that in the when you are trying to open an account, these banks may give a form and asking several questions from you. Why they asking question is they expect that, okay, there may be they expect some information, collect some information to know who you are. Okay, that is the core concept. Know your customer concept. Know your KYC enable the banks to know or understand their customers and their financial dealings, to be able to serve them better and prudently manage the risk of money laundering and financing of terrorism. Not only money laundering and actually this concept is created related to the money laundering and financing of terrorism, but it does not compare to that area only. It is a vast range of activity. So they just collect the customers. Actually nowadays they are using this for their marketing purpose as well. They can use it because they are knowing, okay, how much of the money they can deposit, the customer can deposit in the account, and what will be the circulation of this customer and all. They can divide this customer. So the KYC is giving more information about customer. The objective is to prevent the terrorist financing and money laundering and financial fraud. KYC allow to understand the customer better and manage the risk prudently. Actually, we will discuss these things, but I just wanted to, this time it's more applicable. That's what I am mentioning. Even the last class I have mentioned here. Recently we heard about that in some suburb Colombo area, one lady was arrested because somebody deposited large amount of money to that lady's account, and then this is kind of money laundering system. So since they know about the particular customer's information and her capacity and all, they just, if some unusual amounts are deposited, the bank get alert. And recently, I think in the northern side, somebody's account, 500 large amount has been deposited. Somebody deposited, and because they wanted to deposit and just withdraw sometimes without knowing that person, or sometimes that person also may get involved. So this is the way that the money laundering system is happening. So the know your customer, what they are doing is, since the banks and financial institutions know about the customer, if there is any unusual transaction, that may be get detected. The KYC customer due diligence is ongoing process for prudent banking practices. Therefore, banks are encouraged to do the following. There are some expectations from the bank side with related to the KYC. Actually, normally, even though I'm a central banker, or you have maybe the bankers, when we are going and opening the bank account, if a bank gives lengthy forms to fill, then the people get just irritated. Okay, what is this information and all? But this is for common benefit, and this is informed by the regulator. So that's why these are expected by the regulator. Put in place a system to monitor the accounts and transaction on regular basis. So what they are doing is, okay, the KYC just get the information would not enough. Actually, what they have to do is, they have to monitor the accounts and transaction on regular basis. There should be some system. Actually, it cannot be monitored on manual basis. There should be a system to monitor the accounts and transaction on regular basis. So the regulators are expecting that. Another thing is, update customer information at reasonable intervals. This is one of the other things. Actually, in most of the banks, when you are going for examination, we observe that what they are doing is, they are just getting the customer KYC form at the time of opening the account, sometimes 15 years before, 10 years before and all. So now the total information may be different from which he or she declared at the KYC form. So it at the time to time, the bank should have the mechanism to update the customer information at a reasonable time. So they must have some mechanism to update it. Then only their monitoring process will be much efficient or more be meaningful. And third one is, maintain proper records of customer identifications. That is other things. This is also one of the labs we can observe in the banks. In the customer accounts, they have been opened, but there may be not be IC copy, or there may be a residential proof is not there. There may be lack of documentation. So maintaining proper records of customer identification is must, and it is expected by the regulators, and banks are encouraged to do so. And monitor and check unusual large transactions. It is again the Financial Reporting Financial Transaction Reporting Act or something. Under that, this bank has to monitor the unusual large transactions. I hope I quote, I told you also 2 examples where the bank got alert about those transactions. So then actually the bank should monitor and check usually the large transaction. The providing training on the staff on KYC. Actually, That is also one of the important thing. The bank and finance institution should give the proper training, and staff should be skilled, and should have more skill on this KYC and all. And this is other sort of emerging or new concept, comparably new concept. Now it is expected that KYT, know your transaction, is performed to verify and monitor the transaction done by the customer. They say that, okay, not only the customer level information, the bank should know about each and every transaction performed by customer. That's why know your transaction. Some major financial transactions associated with the customer accounts include cash and card transaction, cross-border transaction, inward and outward remittances, and cross-border trade and finance transactions should be, each and every transaction should be monitored. Know your transaction. The aim of the KYT is to identify potential risk transaction and their underlying unusual behavior of detecting money laundering and fraud. So this is about the this. So before this is about the anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism related concepts. Some concepts. So we have studied about what is money laundering and what is financing of terrorism, and then we have studied about anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism (CFT), and then we have studied about know your customer and KYC and its objective, and now we have studying about the know your transaction. This is I think this is it was not in the exam, but I am giving this to just give you a knowledge, because I am always mentioning that not only pass the exam, getting some knowledge also is the purpose of these studies. So this is about it. So before going to the FIU, Finance Intelligence Unit of Sri Lanka, do you have any questions? Because I think I just wanted to reiterate that there are again the like risk management. This is also one of the important topic. If you are like if you are confident enough on this topic, then you can earn 20 marks in the exam. There are generally there's a one structural questions related to the complaint. Generally, some years of course not, but generally it's come. So if you all have any questions, you can answer. Okay, since you all don't have the questions, I am moving to the next section. FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit of Sri Lanka. This is before going to the detailed manner. This was established in around in 2006, and first it was attached to the Treasury. Then it has been attached. Now currently it has been attached to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. This is actually even though it's attached to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, this is sort of independent function. And these people are responsible for, or FIU is responsible for these anti-money laundering and combating terrorism financing activities in Sri Lanka. And they are doing several activities. It means they are doing on-site examination. They are signed the agreement with the other countries, regulators and all. They are working on that area. And I think you may heard about that. There are some international standard on this anti-money laundering and terrorism financing. As a country, we have to comply with that international law. Otherwise, our country will be blacklisted. Actually, sometimes before, our country has been put into the grey list. So grey list means before the blacklist, some grey list area, they just put it. Then actually this FIU work hard, and then they introduce several things, and now it has now in the since 2019 it has been lifted. and Sri Lanka now no more the grey list. You may ask that why? What is the issue on being the grey list? The grey list, actually being the grey list, is it is cost to the country, because if our country is in a grey list, some finance institution may not willing to have a transaction with our country, and our financial cost may be high, because when we are doing some cost, the cost of transaction may be high because of our grey list status. So, and it is harm to the country as well, and reputation of the country. So they just take it out from the grey list. Now we are not in the grey list. So that's why this anti-money laundering and financing of terrorism, combating financing of terrorism, is an important concept. And FIU, there's a unit called Financial Intelligence Unit of Sri Lanka, FIU. It is responsible for the activities related to these things. Having that some understanding, I'm moving to the today's some theoretical part. FIU was established in March 2006 as an autonomous body under the Ministry of Finance and Planning. Earlier it was under the Ministry of Finance and Treasury. But FIU was reorganized in February 2007 as an independent institution within the central bank framework and administrative structure. So it is initially started as an autonomous body. Even now it's an autonomous independent body, but it is earlier attached to the treasury, but now with the central bank. An objective of the FIU Sri Lanka. The main objective of the FIU Sri Lanka is to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and other related crimes in Sri Lanka in line with international recommended standard. Okay, that is the important thing. They are just combating money laundering and terrorism financing and other related crimes in Sri Lanka in line with the international recommendation and standard. There are some standards which they have to comply with. That is the main objective. And in achieving that main objective, FIU has set up the following sub-objective. Strengthening the AML and CFT activities in Sri Lanka. AML mean anti-money laundering, and CFT in the sense combating financing of terrorism. CFT. AML and CFT activities in Sri Lanka. Upgrading the existing AML and CFT regime in Sri Lanka. Upgrading in the sense, okay, whenever there are, it's an evolving subject, and time to time it may be changes, because the criminal activity is also getting changes. So there may be new things. So upgrading the existing AML and CFT regime in Sri Lanka, it is a continuous process. And upgrading complaint status of Sri Lanka to internationally accepted level. That is the important thing. Okay, we can say we comply with everything, but it has to be internationally accepted level. So upgrading it's one of the function. And strengthen the cooperation with international organization and implementation of international best practices on AML and CFT. Of course, under these activities, what they are doing is they may share the information, because the criminal activities or terrorism, there may be several countries. They may have the branches in several countries and operating it. So the effective sharing of information will help. So what they will do is, this FIU is doing, FIU also signed the agreement with the other countries. Then then what will happen is, then they can share the information. If some organization functioning or having some functions in this illegal organization has a function in Sri Lanka, they can share this information to sometimes some other country asking, okay, please provide the information. Likewise, we also can ask the information from other countries. So this strengthen the cooperation of international organization and implementation of international best practices on AML and CFT is one of the objectives. So if in the exam, if they ask the main objective, or if it is a question, the 2 marks question, you can write the main objective, the first one. But if there's a 5 mark question, and if you wanted to elaborate it, you can go for other objectives. These are the objective of Financial Intelligence Unit of Sri Lanka. Understand? Any questions? Come on, students, you are very silent today. If you have any questions, you can ask. I don't know whether I am boring. That's what when the students are not asking the questions, I'm getting myself doubt. Okay, whether it's going boring or not. If you are boring, just give an alarm. Then I can just change my style. That's all. Okay. Then the functions of FIU Sri Lanka. Okay, they have objectives. It was established, and there are objectives, and there are some functions. So there's a main here also there are co-functions and other functions. These are the co-functions. The first one is FIU as the central depository reporting information for form of the following co-function. First one is receiving cash transaction report, electronic fund transfers, and suspicious transaction report from all reporting institutions. We will see what are the reporting institutions. What they are doing is the cash transaction. Actually, I think it's currently it's a 1 million. If any transaction over and above 1 million, but they are the particular finance institution should generate automatic information generating system, and they have to send it to FIU. If it is the transaction, single transaction over and above 1 million rupees. Say similarly, electronic fund transfers, EFTs, also has to be transferred. And even the card transactions may get, if it is a foreign currency card transaction, it is get, if it is a large. And this is the normal reporting system. And on top of that, there's other reporting system is suspicious transaction report. For suspicious transaction report, of course, there is no single limit like above 1 million or something. If bank feel or the bank officer feel that this transaction is suspicious transaction, then they may report it to the FIU. For example, if a one person, his monthly salary is just 75,000, and it is always reporting his report salary will be credited, and he is using that with. But suddenly, for his account, one person always depositing 5 million rupees and withdraw from country or some other, even within the country, some other accounts. And it is continuously happening every month. So that to get alert. So that the system will trigger the alert. So then that has to be reported to the FIU. Then what the FIU will do is the FIU will analyze the data collected to identify the financial trail and to support the prosecution. An analysis of the data is mainly three forms: tactical, operational, and strategic. They are having different, they also having some system to analyze. So basically, they will receive the data, analyze the data, and dissemination the information locally and internationally, since money laundering and terrorism financing often cross-border activities. Actually, even you may heard about these undials and all. Hawala, that is also in the foreign countries, they are sending money to here, and these people are distributing to the people. So that also terrorists can use that tactics or money, this that undial for money laundering purpose. So that's why there are regulations against that. So basically the functions of FIU, you can just say that you can keep in mind: receiving the report, analyzing the report, and dissemination to the information to the locally and internationally to combat the money laundering. And on top of that, there are some other functions also. This is the core functions. You have to keep in mind, these are the core functions of the FIU, and there are some other functions also. Okay. The first one is issuing rules to the financial or other reporting sectors on the custom identification and record keeping. So what they are doing is they are generally for the finance institution, they just issuing the rules. Okay. Time to time, that's a website called FIU Sri Lanka .lk. I think if you go to the central bank website, you can just there's a link. You can go to that, and where you can find there are several circulars and several directions and several gazette notifications by imposing rules and regulations to the finance institutions with related to this. So the issuing rules to the financial and other reporting sectors on custom identification and record keeping is one of the functions of FIU. And conducting examination to ensure the compliance of the financial and other reporting sector on AML and CFT rules issued by FIU is one of the other things. Other rules, and conducting programs to enhance the awareness among the all stakeholders regarding the AML and CFT is one of the other function. Actually, the first one in the conducting examination, there are on-site examinations and off-site, like bank supervision, non-bank supervision. These people are having on-site examination as well as reporting, continuous reporting. So online examination, they just go and check that whether the finance institutions are following the requirements. Otherwise, they just impose the penalties. I told you that the last month or even the last quarter, they just recently there was a press release. Some banks are subject to the penalties because they have not complied with these AML and CFT regulation rules issued by FIA. And conducting program on enhanced awareness also one of the function, and conducting research and link analysis and trend of the money laundering and all also their function. So these are the some sub functions of the FIU, some subordinate functions, but the main function, if they ask, you have to tell that the previous one. Okay, any questions?
Sir, a small doubt. Current threshold for reporting is 1 million, right?
Yeah, as per my knowledge, I can recheck, but as per my knowledge, it's 1 million.
So if one customer, if he splits that amount to several, 500,000 into two and deposit that into banks, is there any mechanism that FIU will follow in order to trace the ultimate source of fund?
No, actually, that's a weakness of that these things. But again, we can't say that weakness because okay, if he split and deposit the money, then it will not capture under the cash report. But STR under the suspicious transaction, bank may report to the FIU. Okay, this customer always splitting the amounts and deposit under the one account. So that will come under the suspicious transaction reporting, not the cash transaction reporting. And yeah.
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Another thing is actually there are some ways that people also okay. There may be some other ways. These people, even the card transaction, just to get the knowledge. I don't use it actually. Don't use this, but just to get the knowledge. Card transaction also there's a limit. I forget about that limit, $2,000 or something. That's a limit. And if any single transaction or any within a month, if you are engaged enter into the card transaction, foreign currency payments through the card over and above that level, then it will be reported to the FIU. So within 1 month. So what the people will do is they split it into two. Or what they will do is, if it is the one system for Visa and Masters, so they use the half payment for Visa and half payment for Master. There are some ways things, but again, these things will be, that's why this suspicious transaction report is there. So what they will do is they will just capture it under that. Okay, the banks will get to know that, okay, this particular customer, the customer identification, but he's making the payment through two separate accounts, or the accounts in the sense network. So it will come under the suspicious transactions. Actually, again, the regulators are smart, but criminals are too smart. That's of course. So they may always, when there is a regulations, and they just try to overcome. But of course, splitting reporting, of course, it's generally captured because it will come under the suspicious transaction. Okay, before going to this reporting institution, I just wanted to tell you, I saw some posting about your exam. Actually, IBSL decided to conduct exam at latter part of October, before the A-level exam. If things are okay, I don't know this country situation, but if things are okay, and then they expect to that's why they wanted to complete the classes as well. And I saw that they just mentioned some post. I couldn't verify the post, just check this. They expecting vaccination to all the candidates who wanted to sit the exam also. It's not a confirmed news, just confirm it, otherwise.
There is
Sorry?
a mandatory that they should have the vaccines.
Yeah,
These
that's the thing.
days.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's what I wanted to pass the message. If you have the plan to sit the exam, so better to vaccinate it. Then that will, because I couldn't confirm the news, but okay, so there are other people also got that same news. So just check with IBSL and make it ready. That's what I wanted to tell you. Okay. Then we will go to the reporting institutions. So I said that there are reporting. There are three: cash transaction reporting, and other electronic transaction reporting, as well as suspicious transaction reporting and all. Under that, there are some institution which has to be comply with this CFT, and they have to monitor this AML and CFT, AML and terrorist financing. Anti-money laundering and terrorist financing, and they have to report it to the FIU. Those reporting institutions are licensed commercial banks, licensed specialized bank, licensed finance companies, and specialized leasing companies, insurance companies, stockbrokers, Columbus Stock Exchange, unit trust management companies, restricted dealers, and authorized primary dealers, authorized money brokers, money and value transfer service providers, casinos, real estate, dealers in precious metals, and dealers in precious precious stones, and lawyers, notaries, and independent legal professionals, accountant, trust and company service providers. Almost all the professional institutions. So the value, those who deal with the high value things are captured under the reporting institution. Actually, this is just for knowledge. I'm telling earlier, those that some people, what they are doing is, if they go and deposit the money in the bank may ask the several questions. So what they do is, they just invest in the vehicle, or they just invest in the real estate. But now, even this real estate, everybody has to report to the central bank. So they can't just get the money. They have to report. They have if they get the money advance as a cash, they have to report. Or otherwise, mostly they have to get it through the bank. So when at the process, it will be captured all the requirements. So actually, the regulators are tightening because they are tightening to this restriction and for the in line with the international standard. So these are the institutions captured. And on top of that, there's a AMT and CFT related legislations. These okay, we can say that okay, there's institutions and there are process and all, but it has to be legal power. So there are 3 legislations are related to these AML and CFT regimes comprised. First one is Convention on Suppression of Terrorism Financing Act number 25 of 2005. And then Prevention of Money Laundering Act number 5 of 2006 and Financial Transaction Reporting Act number 6 of 2006. These act has been amended several times. We will discuss that. But basically, these 3 acts are related to AML and CFT function of Sri Lanka. First, we can see about the number 25 of 2005 Convention of Suppression of Terrorist Financing Act. This act was enacted on 8 August 2005 in order to give effect to Sri Lanka's obligation as the signatory to the International Convention on the Suppression of Terrorism Financing adopted by the UN on January 10th, 2000. The act prohibits the financing of terrorism and terrorist organization. Further, this act has provision for freezing of terrorist financing related act and for forfeiture of such assets. This act has been further strengthened through the amendment brought to the act in 2011 and 2013. So basically, I think this is the act initially created, and this act only give the powers to Sri Lanka or the authorities to function or to sign this international convention on this combating or suppression of terrorism financing. And the second act is Prevention of Money Laundering Act number 5 of 2006. Which prohibit the money laundering was enacted on, this act was enacted on 6 March 2006. It also set out the necessary measures to combat the money laundering, such as freezing, property tracking, and forfeiting of assets related to money laundering. And this was further amended in 2011. I think this act only give the power to create the FIU. Wait. Yes, 2006 Act. And to the number 6 of 2006 Financial Transaction Reporting Act was certified on 6 March 2006 and provide the setting up of FIU. Okay, sorry. Actually, this act only give the provide the powers to setting up the FIU, not the previous act. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Actually, Financial Transaction Reporting Acts only give the powers to the authorities to set up the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, as a national agency to collect data, information related to suspicious financial transaction to facilitate the prevention, detection, investigation, and prosecution of the offense of money laundering and financing of terrorism. It also incurs mandated institution to undertake due diligence measures to combat money laundering and the financing of terrorism. So this is basically this act only gives the powers to the FIU to collect the data and process. So this act, the FTRA Act requirement is every institution should appoint a compliance officer who shall be responsible for ensuring the institution compliance with the requirement of FTRA. Actually, the last class we have seen that the Bank Supervision Department issued a circular, issued a direction which required the banks to appoint a compliance officer and establish a compliance function in a bank. That apart from that, this act And this act gives the powers to FIU to require all the banks, not only banks, other finance institution and the other reporting institution to appoint a compliance officer. This institution has to appoint as officer as a compliance officer who shall be responsible for ensuring institution compliance with the this act, Financial Transaction Reporting Act. Establishment and maintain the procedure and system to implement the customer identification requirement, implement the procedures for the record keeping and retention requirement, implement the process of monitoring, implement the reporting requirement, and make its officers and employees aware of law relating to money laundering and financing of terrorism. Train the officers, employees, and agents recognize suspicious transaction is important. So these are the functions of so the basically what we have to get to know is, okay, under this act, every reporting institution should appoint a compliance officer, and he has the responsibility to do reporting. And there are some reporting procedures or established procedure they have to maintain, and the staff has to be trained on this FTRA. Okay. And as per the section 6 of the FTRA, banks and finance institution is required to report cash transaction and electronic fund transaction, inward or outward, exceeding threshold of 1 million. Okay, I think there was a question, but the threshold, I think it is 1 million. So it's confirmed that it's 1 million or it's equivalent to foreign currencies. For example, if it is a dollar transaction, the dollar transaction equal to 1 million foreign currency, maybe 5,000, maybe $5,000 for the present value. So they have to report. In terms of FTRA, persons means natural or legal person, including a body of person engaged in the carrying on the any finance business or designated non-financing business are required to comply with the provision of this act. Okay, before going to the duties, if you have any questions, this is actually very straightforward, nothing to explain here. If you have any questions, I can answer. Otherwise, I'll just put it. Okay, then the duties and compliance of the officer of the AML CFT. Actually, compliance officer as per this act, this Financial Transaction Reporting Act, there should be a compliance officer in each reporting line, and there should be a he has some duties. The first one is assess and periodically update overall AML terrorist financing risk of the institutions. Because he has to assess, okay, we say that normally he has to identify what are the risks and has to be what are the assess this AML and money laundering and terrorist financing risk, and he has to report it to the FIU. And prepare the AML CFT compliance policy and procedure and obtain the approval of the top management. This is other thing. The compliance officer has the duty. He has to prepare for a particular institution. If it is the bank or finance company, so any other institution, what he has to do is he has to prepare the money laundering, anti-money laundering and combating terrorism financing. He has to prepare the policies, written policies, and get those written policies should be approved by the top management. Implement the custom identification requirement. That means the KYC requirement. For example, if it is a jewelry shop, of course, they don't follow the KYC. But actually, this is the requirement of the compliance officer in that particular institution. They have to implement the custom identification. If a person buy a large amount of jewels and all, then they have to get that customer information. Implement the procedure for record keeping requirement, and make officers aware of laws relating to money laundering and terrorist financing, and train the officers, employees, agents on such. Actually, what the compliance officer is expected to know about the laws and regulations related to this money laundering. Yeah, but what he or she has to do is they have to train the other people also, pass the knowledge and skills to the other officers of the institution. Then only it will be effective. And screen all the process before hiring them as employees. And establish the audit function to test the procedure and system for the provision of this act. So these are the some duties of the compliance officer on the AML and CFT. And generally, this is just for knowledge, generally we observe that most of the institutions are hesitate to follow the AML and CFT rules. Generally, what they are doing is there will not be policies, or it has not been approved by the top management. And there are in the top management not initiated to this compliance function. Those are the weaknesses, and they don't implement this KYC policy. That means KYC information and all. They don't pay much attention to collect the information from the customers. So these things are one of the lapses or some of the lapses observed in the institutions or reporting institutions. So this is so far, I think this is all about the compliance function as well as this FIU activity, money laundering and financing, combating financing of terrorism. So I think I have completed all the theory part related to compliance functions. For the exam point of view, if you will have any questions, you can ask. I will give some time. Or otherwise, I'm having 2 papers. We can do the papers. Any questions? Okay, since there is no questions, of course, I'll move to the. Okay, there's a question asking from that, sir. This Tuesday also we will be having the class. What your preference? If you all want, I can have the class, no issue. Otherwise, what can I do is I can just cover it. Actually, since there was an extra class only, I could able to complete the section. So if you all don't have any objections, I can continue even this week also. We will have for 2-3 weeks, then stop actually. Then we can just cover these additional classes, and then I can even I can come if I completed this corporate governance also. Then it's sort of easy. Then you can prepare for exam well in advance. Then we can focus on exam papers. Are you agree with the coming to class, or you'll have the difficulties? There was one positive reply. I like to know about others. Are you okay to participate in the class? Okay. There are 2-3. Okay. Everybody saying that there's a positive reply. So we will have a class on Tuesday. Tuesday 7:30, 9:30, same time. I'll send you the tude by tomorrow or Monday morning. I will send it to you Monday. So we will start. I'm planning to start. There are other topic also. I'm planning to start. Corporate governance section. That's also one of the important sections coming for exam. The questions are coming for exams. So better than actually, if you have studied the risk management, compliance function, and corporate governance, of course, you can answer the question for 60 marks. Then out of 60, you can manage the exam, I think, manage the exam. So that is also one of the important the exam point of view. So I'm like to open that, start that topic in the coming class. So next Saturday, next Tuesday, I'll start corporate governance. Okay. If you all don't have any questions, I'll move to the question paper. Okay, because these two papers may help you all to cover the last class as well, because some of the last class exam and the last class topic which we have studied, and then it's just for us revision as well as you can familiar with the exam questions as well. In 2018 September, question number 6 is related to the compliance function. The first statement is a compliance risk management in a deposit-taking financing institution will not be effective unless the board promotes the value of the honesty and integrity throughout the organization. Because it is, I have discussed already with you all, the compliance function come or implemented as a tone at the top. Okay, the tone at the top in the means it should be implemented with the willingness of the top management of the company or financial institutions. And they themselves, as you started to value these compliance functions and ethics of the business, as well as honesty and integrity throughout the organization. So having that statement, first we will see that what is compliance risk. Why it is important to control and manage the compliance risk in an effective manner. First, what is compliance risk? Somebody unmute. Since we have studied this, I expect the answer from you all. What is compliance risk? We have studied at the last class about this compliance risk. Actually, before starting the compliance function, we discuss about the compliance risk, because the compliance function is managed, simply says that it is managing the compliance risk. So if we know about the compliance risk, then we will get to know about the compliance function. That's an easy, because the compliance function is the activities related to manage the compliance risk. Okay, so what is compliance risk? The compliance risk is, students, don't wait until close to the exam. Please study then and there. That will have a benefit to you all. Then at the time close to exam, then it will be sort of revisions. So don't wait until the close to the exam. Okay. So compliance risk, I'm just giving the answer. Compliance risk is a regulatory sanction or material financial losses or any reputational losses a company or financial institution may suffer due to the non-compliance or non-adherence of rules, regulations, laws, and internal practices of that institutions. Okay, if you all want, you can write it, or otherwise it is in the slide also. So we can just say that the compliance risk means any legal and regulatory sanction or material financial losses or reputational losses a company may incur due to the non-adherence of laws, rules, regulations, as well as industry and internal practices with related to the company, which is called compliance risk. Okay? And that's actually, when you are seeing this question, you have to read the question carefully. There's two questions here. First, you have to say what is compliance risk, and then second part of the question, why it is important to control and manage the compliance risk effectively. Why it is important? Because if a financial institution fail to comply with the comply with the rules and regulations, it may create unfavorable consequences to the financial institution, such as unfavorable consequences means legal penalties or financial penalties or litigations or any other reputational losses or losing the customers, the best customers. Those consequences may create. So in order to avoid those consequences, it is important to control and manage the legal risk. And I have the last class, I have said that in the compliance risk, the most of the risk, the financial risk, of course, a little, but little in the sense they can earn back. But if that financial institution lost its reputation, that will create damage to the particular institution. I gave an example. The FIU imposed some penalties for non-compliance of their regulations, CML, AFT, AML, CFT regulations. Actually, the money point of view, 1 million or 5 million and all, it's nothing for a bank, but it may create a reputation loss to that particular bank. So to avoid that reputational loss, they have to comply with those regulations. So they have to control and manage the compliance risk. If you are answer having these ideas, then you can get the full marks. Okay. Then the second question is, compliance function should be formal status within the deposit-taking financial institution to give an appropriate standing, authority, and independence. Do you agree with that? Explain your answer. Are you agree or not first? The compliance function should have the formal status. Are you agree or not? Okay, there was an answer also. The correct answer. I appreciate that student. He or she gave an answer that possible loss due to not adhering to the compliance guideline. That is the answer for this compliances. Actually, I didn't see. So that's a correct answer for the part one. Okay, now I am asking that whether you will agree with this statement or not. Compliance function should have the formal status. I will agree or not? Yes or no? You can send through the inbox. Yes or no? Yes is the correct answer, because it should have in the core principle also mentioning. I have explained to you all about the core principles of the related to the compliance functions, and core principles also mentioning that, and theories, the other literatures also mentioning that there should be a formal status, and that formal status should be appropriate standing and authority and independence. So you have to say yes, agree, or yes, so agree. Actually, I'm sometimes I'm going for these corrections of the papers. And at that time, I just observed the people may answer the right answer, but they don't mention as agree or not agree. Actually, the answer is given, the marking scheme is given. Okay, if they put the agree, then the marks, 1 marks is allocated for that. So when you are writing the exam, answers, what you have to do is you have to first, you have to carefully read the exam question and has to answer appropriately. If you put agree, the 1 marks is just it's coming. So you have to score another 4 marks. So just put the agree. So you have to put as just so agree. Then that's okay. Then you have to briefly explain the answer. What are the answers? Actually, the independence, the concept of independent functions, it's important in the compliance functions because as a second line of defense, the compliance function should be given the independence, and there should not be any conflict of interest with the other functions. Okay, and other thing is authorities must be given by the top management to the compliance officer with related to the compliance function of the bank, and the overall responsibility should be the top management as well as the what they are actually the compliance officer will coordinate the compliance function, and so proper authorities has to be given to coordinate the compliance function. So you have to answer in that way to get the marks. Okay, discuss the role of the compliance officer. I think this is very straightforward questions. I gave in the one cute about the responsibility of the compliance officer role and responsibilities. So you will have to just mentioning that that slide would enough for this answer. You all want the answer or shall I? Here, this slide, this role and responsibilities of the compliance officer. So for the exam, what you have to do is you have to give this this answer. You can get the 5 marks actually. Identify, document and assess the compliance risks associated with the business activities. Promote the ethical conduct and compliance with the rules and regulations and institution policies. Develop an appropriate compliance culture. Identify the potential threat of non-compliance, and advise the senior management on compliance rules and standard, and compliance monitoring and handling the compliance related matters. So these are the role of things. Actually, if you give the answer for this question, that slide answer would be enough. Okay. Then final question is the compliance function and the internal audit function should be separated. Discuss the importance of segregating these two functions for a deposit taking financial institution. Actually, here that also we have as a last we have discussed about that. Here, the compliance function versus internal audit functions. So what we have to say is the compliance function is subject to the checking the compliance level of the internal audit function also. So both has to be separated because if one person check or one division check these both function, then there will be a conflict of interest. So though both function has to be separated, that is first thing you have to give the answer, because in the question it asks that the compliance function and internal audit function should be separated. So you have to give the sort of valid reason for that, support that statement, and discuss the importance of segregation these functions. So you have to say that the internal audit function become the third line of defense, and in internal audit function become the compliance function become the second line of defense, internal audit function become the third line of defense. So these two functions has to be segregated. And compliance function reasonably ensure the rules and regulations followed by the day-to-day operation, but internal audit functions give the assurance on the system. And then you can mention the third one, compliance function involved with the present and future, internal audit function, future and past and present. So, and then you can say that internal audit function should be more independent than the compliance function. So actually, why I am showing the slide is because when you are seeing the slide, you may have the confidence, okay, in the exam paper, I could able to answer based on the things which I have studied in the class. Okay, so I think it's comparably very simple. You can earn the marks, full marks, if you study the slides properly. Any question you will want to ask? Okay. Then there's another question in the 2018 March questions. That is also 6 question number 6. Then efficient compliance function within a deposit-taking finance institution ensures the provision of independent and timely advice to management on compliance and regulatory issues. It also encourages best practices and work to protect the interest of all stakeholders. What does it mean, the compliance? Okay, we have studied about the compliance risk and compliance function and all. Here it asks the question, what does it mean by compliance? Why there's an increasing importance for compliance at present? Okay, what is the meaning of compliance? You can simply say that what is the compliance mean? Any activity which require to adhere the rules and regulations of the and industry practice of the particular institution is called compliance. So any activity to adhere the laws, rules and regulation and industry practice of that particular institution is called compliance. Okay, so there is actually what you have to mention, you have to keep in mind, there's a small difference in the between the compliance and compliance risk. The last question we have seen the compliance risk, where we just define the compliance risk is any sanction or material financial losses or any reputational losses incurred by an institution, faced by an institution for not adhering of rules and regulation, industry practices and internal standards. Okay, but here complaints, of course, we will not say the first part of the answer. We will say the second part. Any activity to adhere the laws, rules, regulation, industry standard and internal practices is considered as a compliance. Why? There is an increasing importance of compliance at present. Because if it is the finance institution, the regulator wanted to have compliance function within the bank or finance institution. And so in order to, and regulator wanted to implement the separate financial compliance function within the institution. And in order to maintain the reputation of the institution, they should manage the complaints function properly. And shareholders as well as stakeholders also expecting complaints function in a high level by the institution. So that's why it is increasing importance of complaints at the present. If you say these things, that is the answer. Okay, so I think these questions, there is no direct answer in our notes, but you can manage and you can give the answer based on the what you have studied. For example, the complaints, we have studied about the complaints risk. So based on that, you can give the answer about that. Actually, everything you can't expect. You can't expect the question from the notes. Something you may have to twist. You may have to twist the answer based on the notes which we have studied. Okay. And the second question is, complaints officer should surely bear the responsibility for the complaints. Do you agree? Briefly explain your answer. Okay. The complaints officer should solely bear the responsibility for complaints. Do you agree or not? Are you all agree that whether the complaints officer should have the duly responsibility of the complaints function? Are you all agree or not? Yeah, there's a mixed answer. Actually, it's not agree. They said not only him. Actually, no. But there's a one person agree. Actually, the correct answer is no. Actually, not only the compliance officer, all the staff of the institution, particularly the top management and senior management, everybody responsible for compliance function. Okay, so when you are giving the answer, you have to say no or not agree. Do you agree? So you have to say not agree. Then the answer is the complaints function. The role of the complaints officer is just coordinating the complaints function within the institution. But the top management is has the ultimate responsibility to implement the complaints function in the institution. And the regulator also, you can say that also, regulator also expect that the complaints function should be started at the tone at the top. Okay, the complaints function should be started at the tone at the top. So that's why the complaints function started from the top management, and it has to be. And again, it has to create it as a culture. So each and every officer has a responsibility to comply with rules, regulations, and internal practices of the particular institution. So you have to give the answer to support the first answer. That means not agree. Why? Okay. Anything you all wanted to ask? Okay. The third question is, why tone at the top is essential for effective complaints function? This is one of the questions I observe in the exam paper. Again and again it's coming. So if you all can answer this question, actually you have the probability of answer the question at the exam, because this is sometime it may repeat the exam, because this is one of the question is repeating again and again. The why tone at the top is essential for effective complaint function, or they may ask the complaint function should start that as a tone of the top. Are you agree on those sort of things? So the word tone at the top is always coming. So what is the answer? It has to be tone at the top. It means the complaints function should be started from the top management. Okay, the top management has the responsibility of introducing proper compliance policy for a particular institution, and they have to review the policy time to time. And the top management has the responsibility of appointing a proper person or suitable person for chief compliance officer or compliance officer, and proper authorities has to be given by the top management to function as a compliance for the compliance function. So it has to be started as a tone at the top. It means that from the top level it has to be started. So you have to give the answer in the way the top management is important for, is responsible for implementing and establishing compliance function, and they have to approve the policies and procedure, and they have to appoint the officer. And actually there's other one, senior officer has to be appointed for the as a one of the not senior, one of the, it's a sort of senior level person has to be appointed as a compliance officer, which we have discussed the last class as well. So you have to answer in that way. And the fourth question is, compliance officer should be assigned with a sufficient seniority. Okay, it's coming like with a sufficient seniority and authority to make it independent. Briefly explain your answer. This is, and again we are just answering this question. That this compliance function, like a risk management function, compliance function also should be an independent function. And when the officers are appointing to the compliance department, the top management has to make sure that there should not be conflict of interest. Okay, so they have to keep the compliance officer as a independent officer for the things. And compliance function is considered as a one of the second line of defense. So the comparably, the compliance function should be independent function. Another thing is, there should be chief compliance officer should be a sufficiently seniority person. And he has to, for example, you can easily understand that if a person appoint very junior level person, he appointed as a compliance officer, he or she can't ask the other people, because for example, even a many branch level, if they don't send any return to the regulators and all, they may not if it is a junior officer, he can't ask from the branch manager or senior manager not to send and all, he can't implement. So that's why it has to be sufficient seniority and authorities has to be taken to the compliance officer. So those are the things you have to give the answer for the fourth questions. So this is all about the answer. So I think we have now we have studied about the compliance functions, and we have seen about the two papers, and I think latter part of the our lecture series, I will discuss some more papers, maybe very latest papers. Then that time we can just we can see at once again. But if you have any question, you can ask about the compliance function. By the way, I like to say that what are the compliance function? Actually, as a supervisor, there are some lapses in the compliance functions. You may note it out that actually I don't prepare the slide. You can just note it out and get in, keep it, because there are sometimes there's any questions. What are the common lapses in the financial institution? Actually, there is no proper policies in the on the compliance functions, and the policies has not been reviewed properly. That is one thing, one main lapses the financial institutions are not adhere. It means that the complaint for the complaints, actually, if anything, there should be a proper policies, but the compliance function, there is no proper policies and it has not been properly reviewed. Actually, it has to be time to time reviewed. It has not been reviewed properly. That is one of the main thing. Another thing is lack of accuracy in the returns. Okay, even though they are sending the returns to the regulators, lack of accuracy. Accuracy is not a 100%. So actually there should be, so what the compliance officer is doing, he just tick box. Okay, this return is going to the regulator, but he does not make sure that that particular bank does not have the system and process to check whether the systems are properly systems to make sure that particular returns are 100% accurate return, not 100% accurate return. And there's a the complaints officer does not familiar with the new development of the industry practices or new regulations. Familiar to the new regulations, it takes time by the regulators. So these are the common three lapses, you can say. If there's what are the common lapses observed in the financial institution with related to the compliance function, you can mention these functions. Okay. Anything you all wanted to ask? Okay, since there is no questions, I just summarize this. I think we have some time, but since I have completed the compliance functions, I'm thinking that this is the right time to summarize it. So first we have seen what is compliance risk. So which is not adhering to non-compliance with any not adhering to any rules and any legal things, laws or regulation and industry practices compliance risk. Then we say that what are the functions of compliance function, what are the component of compliance functions, where we have identified 5. Identify the risk, assess the so the compliance function is mainly manage the compliance risk, and to manage the compliances, they identify the compliances, assess the compliance risk, and report the compliance risk and advise on the compliance risk, and all are related to the compliance risk functions. And then we have discussed about the other aspect of these roles and responsibility of top management, senior management, and compliance officer on all. Then today we have discussed about this FIU function, anti-money laundering, and terrorism financing and all. So this is about the compliance function. I think 2 classes, and you can study good, and there's a possibility of coming the questions. It means it's regularly coming as a structural questions. Okay, if you'll have any questions in the compliance section or risk management or any other sections, I'm ready to answer, because we have some time. So otherwise what I can do is I can just stop the class. If you don't have the class if you don't have any questions, I can stop the class and continue from the next. Okay, students, since you don't have the questions, I stop the class, and I think this is I have completed the compliance function. So next Tuesday by 7:30 we will meet, where I'm going to start a new topic called corporate governance. That is also one of the important topic for exam purpose. So we will discuss that on the next class. Okay, thank you.